Hello there, my name is Steve LaWarre. I'm the Director of Horticulture here at Meijer Gardens and Sculpture Park. And I have the fun opportunity to share a little bit about some of our bonsai collection with you this morning. And as I talk about these trees, you'll recognize the fact that I keep referring to them as bonsai. And my good friend Dean describes that as bone, like dog bone, and sai, like, so bonsai. You're only allowed to say bonsai if you're bungee jumping. So, bonsai. The gardens have a collection of about 35 to 40 trees, and not all of those trees are what I would call show ready, but I wanted to share with you a couple trees today and just talk a little bit about their history and why I really love each one of them. So we'll start off with this first tree here, which is a juniper. So this juniper was one of the trees that started our collection. And our collection started out with about 15 trees that were donated by a wonderful woman named Unis. And Unis was from the Traverse City area, and she had a connection to Julie Frankie, who was an early staff member here. And she donated our first 15 trees, and that's how this collection started 25 years ago. And this tree originally was part of her collection, and we called it the twin trunk juniper. And I'll talk about that in just a second. It at one time had two trunks, and I'll show that to you. But you can see this is just a beautiful wind-swept juniper. And every bonsai should tell a story, and that story is really up to you. And I would encourage you, every time you look at one of these trees, to think about, what story that tree is telling you. To me, this tree has been growing, for example, on a bluff over Lake Superior, and the wind is constantly coming from this direction. And any little branch that would start to grow on this side would be inundated by snow and sand and some of that pelting water, and wouldn't survive. So only these pieces that are a little bit protected on this side of the tree have been the ones that survive. Now, you might come up with your own story for this tree, but windswept is a kind of a style that lends itself to that type of story. And you can see the ramification on these branches, and this spring we'll continue to pinch some of this back so that you can further see the detail of that branching. And you can also see what we call gin, which is dead wood, that's up here at the top. And you can see that it almost looks like it's been sandblasted and weathered over time. And that just helps tell the story of the age of this tree. And this tree was originally called the twin trunk juniper because it had two trunks. And every bonsai has a front view, and that's the view that you typically only see during an exhibition. And it's a great way to hide some things if there's any imperfections or anything that you don't want the viewer to see. Well, in this case, if I turn this tree around to the back side, you can see where there was a large trunk that came off that was almost the same size as this first trunk. And because of the way this is windswept, because of the story that it was trying to tell us, we felt that it was a better tree by removing that second trunk. But we keep records on everything. We have a file for every tree that talks about when it's potted and when it's pinched and when it's wired. And we continue to call this the two-trunk juniper because that's just the name it's had from the beginning. So this is the Unis twin trunk juniper, and it's one of the trees in the Meijer Gardens collection.